What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Tony Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. Joined once again with Ryan Davenport, and we're going to dive into the North Texas loss to the Cal Golden Bears. But before we get into all that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football or G5 football, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. Okay, Ryan, I know it's late Sunday night. I appreciate you jumping on. Just kind of jumping right into it, kind of echoing, what Coach Moore said. I think atrocious is the word he used when asked how he would sum up the game. And I mean, as far as a start to an era, Coach Moore's era, I mean, tough slate having a Power Five right off the bat, but it was an atrocious start. And I think a lot of us as fans, we talked ourselves into, really believing that North Texas had a good shot in not only covering, but winning this game. And just truly, we couldn't have been, could not have missed the mark more. So just to start off defensively, 3-3-5 with Capone, his new defense, that he's bringing the 3-3-5 back. We've seen it in Denton a long time. I've been saying this. I don't know if we have the people on the roster currently, if they were recruited for a 3-3-5. I mean, we've had it so recently in a roundabout way. Maybe they were, in fact, recruited for the 3-3-5. However, they haven't been playing in it the last 2 years under Coach Phil Bennett. And I just don't think that the team's constructed to run that successfully right now. Pre-snap, I feel like a lot of us in the box who are not genius football minds could just kind of see the holes before and just hand the ball off. And Cal did rush for 379 yards, and anytime that happens, I just feel winnings is pretty a far reach in any situation. So I don't know what the answer is there. I'm not sure if I didn't seem like there was a lot of defensive adjustments, either at any point in the game. And it just kind of seemed like they just stuck to the run game. And why not when it's working so successfully? So I'm concerned, really concerned about the defense going forward for this season. But what are your thoughts on the defense as a whole?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that defensively it was a very poor performance. The 3-3-5 defense is going to have a lot of holes, and you're going to sit there pre-snap and see wide open gaps, and so they're going to be stunting into different to put their guys into different gaps, either pre-snap or right at the snap of the football. And the idea is we're going to guess a little bit. We didn't have a lot of film on the Cal Bears. We're going to make some assumptions, and a lot of those assumptions, especially in the second half, were wrong. They ran the ball much better in the second half. The other big problem that I saw on Saturday is not tackling, not finishing the tackle, not taking the ball carriers to the ground, not gang tackling. There was a lot of arm tackling, a lot of running backs running through arm tackles, a lot of guys getting to the second level and kind of throwing their weight around a little bit. And they definitely had the running game going, Cal did. So if we're going to have any success, we've got to tackle a lot better. We got to gang tackle. And we're really going to have to game plan to put our guys in good positions. And I think that's hard week one where you don't really know what you're going to see from your opponent this time. So that did not bode well for us at all. But tackling is about effort. That's something we could have done better at. So,
real quick before we go to the offensive side, you mentioned pre-tape running a 3-3-5. It's going to give a lot of defensive players, they're going to have to make a tackle in space more times in other defensive schemes, which is a much harder tackle to make. But do you feel like, maybe not 3-3-5, but with guys like Mason Richards and Rod Brown and Ridge Tejada and Logan Wilson, and there's a few, decent at least players on this defense that we know of, not to mention, who else, might be on the depth chart this year that we don't know. But do you think we have enough pieces to be middle of the pack AAC defense? But if so, do you think that will require a shift in the defensive scheme, at least part of the time?
Well, the running game, so with 3-3-5, some of these guys you named are outside players, right? And so the running game that hurt us against the Cal Bears was up the middle. That's where it was. Or it was missed tackles that turned into longer runs. It was not outside runs. It wasn't these, situations where our corners and our safeties are making the play is kind of up the middle. And so to me, that's really your center guys getting pushed around, not stunting into the right gaps, probably missing gap assignments. I haven't broken the film down, but when I saw from the sidelines, probably missing gap assignments or getting into those gaps and getting washed past the play, and the tailback's making a cut off that block. And so I think that in an AAC game, a more on par AAC game with us, which would be some of these teams that are more at our level. I'm not talking the top end of the AAC, but the mid range. We're not going to get pushed around as much. We're going to have a more comparable size. But no, I think we're going to struggle this year. I don't think we're going to be mid level this season unless we change something and tackle better. I mean, that's my 2 cents.
And one last thing before we move to the offensive side, a little fanning of the flame, out of control of all the North Texas players and coaches, obviously, but Texas State upsetting Baylor just down I-35 doesn't help optics. That we saw the approach Texas State took with recruiting and really, going all in on the portal, and North Texas not really taking that approach. And you can make a case for either approach or strategy, but as far as instant payoff, it seemed like Texas State probably made the right move there from a recruiting, strategic move. What are your thoughts?
You saw it with Colorado. I mean,
yes,
not the same level of competition, but I mean, 80 something new starter or new players on that team, and them coming out and winning against the national champion runner up last year. I mean, that I think speaks volumes. But I didn't follow the recruiting as closely as maybe you did this year for North Texas, but feel like we got a fair amount of portal recruits. But at least some of the stuff that I saw in the game and then things I've read afterwards seemed like guys who made the most impacts were not these guys who we got from the portal. So I don't know if that's evaluating of talent or what, or maybe we're trying to get guys to fit a scheme. I don't really know. So
and it seems like most of our portal guys are offensive guys with a handful of defense, but we lost, you lose KD Davis to eligibility, then you lose Nixon to transfer portal. I mean, there were some needs there. Cam Robertson, who, freshman, who's poised to probably be a starter this year. Obviously he goes. So anyway, we'll have to see how that's kind of the long game, the recruiting of it. And I think the staff has a lot of legit recruiters, and I think Morris is a really legit recruiter. So we'll see how that shakes out.
I think North Texas is a good place to play. I think it's a good place to be, and I think the new coaching staff seem to be good people. So I think they'll get out there and get that right. I think it's just early in their tenure.
So going over to the offense, I think the really only glimmer of hope was the SEC wide receiver transfer from a year ago in Jamori Macklin, who had 122 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, and him and Stone's early connection really gave North Texas fans a lot of hope. I feel like as the game started, at least for the first half, that we were answering when California would score, and things started off to look like it didn't look like it was their first time running this offense, year one, and a new scheme with a new coach against a Power 5 school. They look like they've been doing it for a while. And then second half is a totally different story. We see eventually that they throw Chandler Rogers in the hopes for a spark. Not to knock on Rogers, it just, Rogers didn't play for 3 quarters, gets thrown in at the end. I wouldn't expect really too much from that. And, didn't get a lot of opportunity, so wasn't a lot of production there. Thoughts on the quarterback competition, then I'll pass it to you. I asked Coach Morris in the presser if is the competition back open, and he didn't say no, but he elaborated on that. Stone's their guy. They made that choice after all of spring, all of fall. I'm glad to see that they're not pulling it just after one game, a Power 5 game. So it seems like Stone's going to run out against FIU. But what are your thoughts on the quarterback piece as well as the offense? And what are you hoping to see from Stone Earl against FIU?
I mean, to be honest with you, I I was not displeased with what I saw out of Stone Earl in the first half. I mean, I thought he had reasonable command of it, of the offense. I think he made decent throws. He missed on one or two, but he made good long reads. We had guys open. We were scoring. I wasn't upset about any of that. If anything, I was the most disappointed with the running game. We didn't get anything going on the ground, and I think that really allowed Cal, especially in the second half, to sort of take away our passing ability and put us in some bad spots and get Stone in position where he's going to throw a pick here or there, and that looked bad. But I didn't think Stone played bad at all. 63% passing, 100 something yards. I think he had a decent day. I would continue to stick with him at this point. I didn't like. I was good with them bringing in Chandler Rogers, but as we had said last week, I wanted them to bring it in certain situations more as a game plan, not just, we're getting late in the game, let's bring him in, and I bring in Rogers. And I think that that felt weird to me. I thought Stone could continue to play that game at that time. I would also say that, if they can get the running game going and keep that high-powered offense, I think we still have some things to be excited about. As if they hit that long pass right before halftime, if we can keep them out of the end zone, that game is what, 28-27 going into halftime. It's a pretty tight game at that point. But we come out after halftime, we don't make the right adjustments, we're not prepared, and we really just couldn't get anything going in the second half. And that was probably the most disappointing part of it for me. So I did say last week, it'd be a high scoring affair. It was. It would not be a defensive battle. It was not. So I feel like it was what I expected. North Texas could not keep up the momentum in the second half to make it a shootout.
As far as this season goes, I'm definitely not out on the Morris hire or anything like that. This whole coaching stint at North Texas is obviously a marathon, not a sprint. It just so happens that it wasn't the greatest start to the marathon. And again, when you look around, you see others having a better start. It makes for lustful eyes, I guess you could say. However, as far as this season specifically goes, again, I'm not ready to put in or wave the white towel yet as far as this season. But out of the next 3 games, FIU, Louisiana Tech, and Abilene Christian, I think you lose one of those games, and it's going to be a hard sell for even the most optimistic for any hope for this season of getting 6 wins. What are your thoughts there? Do you think these next 3 are all 3 must wins?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think let me say it this way. I don't like the term must wins, because we are building a program here. We have brand new coaches. This is a new scheme. But I do think it's must compete. We must come out and play our football and look like a very competitive team in the next 3 weeks. If we don't do that, then that would be the frustrating part, is because we should be trending in the same direction as Texas State, as Wyoming had a big win this week. So those are the types of teams that we need to be elevating ourselves to get those marquee wins. If we can't field a team against FIU or La Tech, then that would be an issue. I think we will. I mean, those are very winnable games in my book. But I want to see him focused, and I want to see him making plays and having fun.
Yeah, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but FIU, North Texas is a 17-point favor. If North Texas beats them handily, I'm not really going to feel. I mean, it'll feel good, sure, but it's not going to right this wrong as far as this past Saturday. However, I want to ask you this question in closing. We saw Stone Earl do 3 touchdowns against Cal. FIU, is again favored by 17. North Texas should cover that if I was a betting man. Do you think Stone Earl will pass for more or less than 5 touchdowns?
I think he'll pass for 5. I would have said 5. So, yeah, I can't say more or less. I would just say 5. That would be my number. Yeah, we'll push it.
Okay. I mean, if if we're talking next week and Stone Earl passed for 5, I mean, that's if nothing else, that's padding the stats. So it'll be interesting. But any closing thoughts before we hop off here?
No, I think all I would say is that there's a lot of great coaches out there that lost their first game at big time schools. So I would not, I'm a believer in the Mean Green, and I'm good with the Eric Moore's hire. So I want to continue to support him in his journey forward. Like you said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So
Absolutely, a long season left. So
yep.
as always, go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.